He came home in broad daylight, expecting the house to look the same. It didn't. His sister opened the door with a smile that came a second too late, and that's when he saw it. The bruise, still fresh, carefully half hidden. Across the street, a car sat with its engine running, pretending to belong there. In that instant, he understood everything. Someone had hurt her, someone was watching, and someone wanted him to know. What they didn't realize was who had just walked back into their world. He had stayed gone for years to keep her safe. He had buried his name, his past, his violence. Before the day was over, whoever crossed that line would face what he really was. This is a heart tale story, where the most dangerous moment isn't the fight. It's the moment someone comes home. The motorcycle rolled into the neighborhood under full daylight, its engine low, controlled, almost polite. That alone felt wrong. This street had once known his name. It had trembled when he passed. Now curtains stayed half open, eyes watching without recognition, as if the man riding past were just another stranger passing through a dying block. Caleb Moreau slowed at the corner, boots brushing the pavement as he cut the engine. The silence that followed rang louder than gunfire. He took off his helmet, not because he needed air, but because he wanted the sun on his face. He had been gone a long time, long enough for the city to forget him, long enough for him to hope it had. The house stood exactly where it always had, paint peeled, fence crooked, the front door scarred with old damage that had never been repaired. Caleb stood there for a second longer than necessary, scanning the street, the rooftops, the parked cars. Old habits did not fade. They sharpened. He stepped onto the porch. The door opened before he could knock. Mara froze when she saw him, not because she was surprised, because she was terrified. Caleb caught it instantly. The way her breath stopped, the way her hand tightened around the doorframe, the way she tried and failed to smile. "Mara," he said quietly. She shook her head once as if saying his name would make him real, and then she was in his arms. Her body trembled, not with relief, but with something closer to panic. Caleb's eyes stayed open as he held her. He looked past her shoulder, into the house, down the hallway, toward the shadows. Nothing moved. That did not calm him. When she pulled back, she turned her face away too quickly. Caleb reached out and stopped her. There it was. A bruise, dark and fresh, spreading along her cheekbone like a fingerprint. Not old, not fading. The skin around it swollen, tender. His hand hovered, never touching. "Who did this?" he said. "It's nothing," Mara replied too fast. "I tripped. I wasn't watching where I was going." Caleb didn't blink. He had heard lies his entire life. This one wasn't even good. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. The house smelled wrong, too clean, too empty, like someone had been careful, like someone didn't want to leave traces. "How long?" he asked. Mara busied herself with nothing, straightening a chair that didn't need it, picking up a cup that was already clean. "You shouldn't be here, Caleb." That was confirmation enough. He crossed to the window and looked out. A sedan idled half a block down, engine running, driver pretending to scroll on a phone. Across the street, a man leaned against a fence that didn't belong to him. Caleb's jaw tightened. "They're watching you," he said. Mara swallowed. Her silence was louder than a confession. Caleb turned back to her, eyes hard now, focused, awakened. "I left so this wouldn't happen," he said. "I stayed gone so they'd forget us." She finally met his gaze. "They didn't forget," she whispered. Caleb nodded once. Outside, the sedan's engine revved slightly. Inside, something old and violent stretched awake inside him. The ghost had come home, and whatever had touched his sister was about to learn what that meant. Caleb didn't raise his voice. He didn't pace. He simply stood there, listening to the house, to the street, to the way fear changed the rhythm of Mara's breathing. He had learned long ago that violence announced itself before it arrived. Right now, it was whispering. "How often?" he asked. Mara hesitated, then answered anyway. "Every day." The words settled between them like dust. "Same car," he continued. "Yes, same man." She nodded. Caleb crossed the room and gently pulled the curtain back an inch. The sunlight flooded in, bright and unforgiving, washing over the sedan outside. The driver didn't look up. That was mistake number one. People pretending to be invisible always watch too closely. Caleb let the curtain fall. "They touched you," he said. It wasn't a question. Mara's shoulders tightened. "They warned me. That was worse." He turned, anger finally cutting through his calm. "About what?" "About you," she said. "About coming back." The room felt smaller, the walls closer. Caleb exhaled slowly through his nose, forcing the surge down. He had promised himself this life was over. He had buried it with distance and silence, but promises made to ghosts never lasted. He moved to the kitchen and opened a drawer. Empty. Another drawer, also empty. Too empty. Someone had searched this place, someone methodical. Did they come inside, he asked. Mara didn't answer. Caleb closed the drawer gently, then leaned both hands against the counter. His reflection stared back at him from the window glass, older, harder, but not different enough. He saw now what he hadn't wanted to see before. Leaving hadn't protected her. It had painted a target. He straightened and reached into his jacket, pulling out his phone. "Pack a bag." Mara's head snapped up. "Caleb, no, I can't leave. You can," he said. "You will. They said if I disappeared, they won't find you." "How do you know?" "Because I won't let them breathe long enough to look," he thought. But he didn't say that. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Listen to me. You're not alone anymore." Mara searched his face, seeing something shift there, something darker, something she remembered from years ago and prayed never to see again. "Promise me," she whispered. "Promise me you won't make this worse." Caleb's jaw clenched. "I promise," he said. It wasn't a lie. It just wasn't the promise she thought she was hearing. A knock hit the door, hard, confident, not asking permission. Caleb moved instantly, placing himself between Mara and the sound. His hands slid behind his back, fingers flexing, remembering shapes that weren't there anymore. The knock came again. "This is a welfare check," a man's voice called out. "Open up." Caleb smiled without humor. He stepped forward, unlocked the door and opened it just enough to see the man on the porch. Mid-30s, clean clothes, neutral expression, eyes sharp. "Everything okay in there?" the man asked. Caleb leaned against the frame, blocking the view. "Everything's fine." The man's gaze flicked past him, searching. "Mistake number 2. Caleb stepped closer, invading his space, voice low enough that only the two of them could hear. "Tell whoever sent you," he said, "that I'm home." The man stiffened. Caleb held his stare until the message landed. When the door closed again, the street outside felt suddenly very quiet. Caleb locked it, then turned back to Mara. "This ends now," he said. Outside, the sedan pulled away. Inside, something ancient had already decided otherwise. Caleb didn't sleep. The house stayed quiet, but quiet meant nothing. Quiet was how danger learned your routine. He stood by the front window as the sun climbed higher, watching the street come alive. People left for work. A delivery truck rolled past. A dog barked once, then stopped. Everything looked normal. That was the problem. He noticed the pattern within minutes. The same blue sedan passed twice, different speed, same driver. Across the street, a woman pretended to water plants that were already soaked. Down the block, a man stood too long at a bus stop with no bag and no phone. Caleb counted them, 3, maybe 4 if the reflection in the parked car window wasn't his imagination. "They're not subtle," he muttered. Mara sat at the table, hands wrapped around a mug she hadn't touched. "They never were." Caleb turned to her. "When did it start?" "About a month ago," she said. "At first it was notes, then calls. Then they started showing up." "What did they want?" She hesitated. "Information." His eyes narrowed. "About me?" "Yes." Caleb exhaled slowly. So that was it. He hadn't been hunted. He had been bait. "Did you give them anything?" "No," Mara said quickly. "I swear." He believed her. They would have come harder if she had. Fear was their tool. Pressure before force. He pulled out his phone and scrolled through missed calls and messages. Numbers with no names, repeated patterns, burner phones, amateur intimidation layered over professional patience. Did anyone mention a name, he asked. Mara shook her head. They never said who they worked for. Caleb smiled faintly. They always do. Eventually, he stepped outside without warning. The sunlight hit him full in the face, sharp and unforgiving. He stood on the porch openly, letting himself be seen, letting them register the change. The man at the bus stop stiffened. The sedan slowed. Good, Caleb thought. Look at me. He walked down the steps and crossed the street, not toward them but past them, forcing them to react. The sedan rolled forward, too fast, too eager. Caleb memorized the plate, letters, numbers. He wouldn't forget them. Inside, Mara watched through the window, heart pounding. She had seen this version of her brother once before, back when people stopped answering calls, back when the news ran stories without names. Caleb returned minutes later, calm again, like nothing had happened. They're scared, he said. That means they're not in charge. Then who is? Mara asked. Caleb thought for a moment, then opened his phone again. He typed a name into a secure contact list he hadn't touched in years. Dante Rizzo. The call connected after one ring. I told you never to use this number again, Dante said. I'm back, Caleb replied, and someone put hands on my sister. There was a pause on the line, a long one. Then it started, Dante said quietly. Who? Caleb asked. Dante exhaled. Cross. Victor Cross. The name landed heavy. Caleb stared at the street, eyes cold now. He had crossed paths with that empire once. He had walked away alive because walking away had been the deal. Why now? Caleb asked. Because Victor thinks you're weak, Dante said. Because he thinks you're gone. And because he has a daughter. Caleb closed his eyes briefly. What's her name? He asked. Evelyn Cross. Caleb opened his eyes again, already moving. Then he said, find out where she goes. I want daylight. Caleb watched her from across the street for nearly an hour before he moved. Evelyn Cross stepped out of the building just after noon, sunlight spilling down the front steps behind her. No bodyguards, no armored car, just a woman in plain clothes, a canvas bag slung over one shoulder, her attention fixed on the phone in her hand. She paused to help an older man with a dropped grocery bag, smiled, said something he couldn't hear, then continued on her way. This was not what Caleb had expected. Victor Cross did not raise daughters like this. He raised shields, weapons, bargaining chips, yet Evelyn walked like someone who had learned how to disappear in plain sight. Caleb stayed back, blending into the movement of the street. He crossed when she crossed, stopped when she stopped. He felt the familiar rhythm settle into his bones, the calm that came with pursuit. This wasn't rage, this was control. She entered a cafe bathed in afternoon light. Glass walls, open sightlines, nowhere to hide. Caleb waited 10 seconds, then followed. The place was busy. Students, office workers, noise and steam and clinking cups. Evelyn stood at the counter, ordering, laughing softly at something the barista said. The sound hit Caleb harder than it should have. He took a seat near the window, back to the wall, eyes on her reflection. She paid, she waited. She checked her phone again, frowned, then slipped it into her bag. Not afraid, he realized, not guarded. That unsettled him. When she turned, their eyes met. It was brief, accidental. But she noticed him. Her gaze lingered a fraction too long, curiosity flickering before she looked away. Caleb felt something tighten in his chest. He didn't like variables. He didn't like doubt. She took her drink and moved to a table near the door. Alone. Caleb finished his coffee without tasting it, then stood. He walked past her table as if heading for the exit. "Excuse me," Evelyn said. He stopped. "You dropped this." She held out his phone. Caleb stared at it. He hadn't dropped it. He took it anyway. "Thanks. You're welcome," she said. Her eyes searched his face, not suspicious, just observant. "You look lost." He almost smiled. "Something like that," he replied. He turned to leave, but her voice followed him. "If you're looking for trouble," she said lightly, "this isn't the place." He paused at the door. "Is that advice?" he asked. She shrugged. "Just a guess." Outside, Caleb breathed in slowly. She wasn't bait, not knowingly, which meant Victor was smarter than he looked, or crueler. He didn't give Evelyn time to finish her drink. When she stepped back onto the sidewalk, he was there, close enough that she flinched before she could stop herself. His hand closed gently but firmly around her wrist. "Don't scream," he said quietly. "I won't hurt you." Her eyes widened, but she didn't scream. That confirmed everything. Within seconds, they were gone, swallowed by the flow of traffic and daylight. No alarms, no chase. Just another moment the city failed to notice. As Caleb guided her toward the waiting car, Evelyn finally spoke. "You have the wrong person," she said. Caleb met her gaze, cold and steady. "That's what I'm hoping," he replied. The car door shut with a dull, final sound, sealing them inside the moving capsule of daylight and tension. Traffic flowed around them, horns distant, pedestrians unaware that anything had changed. Evelyn didn't look away. "You have the wrong person," she said again, slower this time, as if repetition might turn certainty into truth. Caleb pulled the car into traffic without answering. His eyes stayed on the road, hands steady on the wheel. "If I do," he said, "this ends quickly. And if you don't," she replied. He glanced at her then. "Just once. Then someone wanted you scared enough to be useful." Her jaw tightened. "That sounds like my father." Caleb said nothing. The city slid past the windows in bright, ordinary fragments, store signs, crosswalks, a group of people laughing on a corner. It all felt obscene in its normalcy. Evelyn tested the door handle, not violently, just enough to confirm what she already knew. Locked. "Don't," Caleb said. She didn't. "You're careful," she said instead. Too careful for someone doing this on impulse. He turned onto a quieter street. "You're observant." "I had to be." They drove in silence for another block. Evelyn broke it first. "If you're trying to protect someone," she said, "you should know this won't help them." Caleb's grip tightened. "You don't know who I'm protecting. I know it's not yourself." That landed. He pulled into the underground garage and stopped. The engine ticked as it cooled, the sound loud in the enclosed space. Caleb turned to her fully now. "Listen to me," he said. "I don't want you hurt. I want answers." "Then ask," Evelyn replied. "Don't assume." He got out, circled the car, and opened her door. She stepped out on her own, shoulders squared, eyes alert, no pleading, no panic. That bothered him more than resistance would have. Inside the elevator, the walls closed in around them. The hum of machinery filled the silence. "You're not going to kill me," Evelyn said calmly. Caleb watched the floor numbers climb. "Why are you so sure?" "Because you would have done it already," she said, "and because you're still talking." The doors opened onto the hallway. Caleb led her into the apartment and locked the door behind them. Sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating bare walls and minimal furniture. Nothing personal, nothing permanent. "This is temporary," Evelyn observed. "So are you," Caleb said. She set her bag down slowly. "If you think my father sent those men," she said, "you should know he doesn't chase. He waits." Caleb leaned against the counter, studying her like a problem that refused to solve itself. "And what do you do?" "I stay out of his way." "By walking alone," he said, "by helping strangers, by pretending you don't matter." Evelyn met his gaze. "By surviving." The word hung there. For the first time since he'd grabbed her wrist on the sidewalk, Caleb felt something shift. Not certainty, doubt. And doubt, he knew, was far more dangerous than being wrong. Caleb poured water into 2 glasses and slid one across the counter. Evelyn didn't touch it. She watched him instead, eyes steady, measuring. He noticed the way she tracked his movements, the way her posture stayed loose but ready, not fear. "Readiness. You said men came after your sister," she said. "They didn't want money." Caleb didn't respond. "They wanted leverage," she continued, "and they didn't take her. That matters." He turned to face her. "Explain." "If they wanted to hurt you," Evelyn said, "they would have made it loud, public, messy. They wanted you to notice without forcing your hand." Caleb felt the truth of it settle uncomfortably into place. They wanted to flush me out, he said. Yes, Evelyn replied. And you walked straight into it. Silence filled the apartment again, thick but controlled. Outside, the city carried on, sunlight spilling across concrete and glass as if none of this existed. Caleb leaned back against the counter, crossing his arms. Why help me? I'm not, she said. I'm explaining. Why? Evelyn finally reached for the glass, took a small sip, then set it down. Because if my father is involved, she said, you're already in danger, and so am I. Caleb studied her face, looking for cracks. There were none. You expect me to believe you don't know what he's doing, he said. I expect you to believe that if I did, she answered, I wouldn't be sitting here calmly trying to stop you from making this worse. That struck deeper than accusation. Caleb moved to the window and looked out. The street below was bright, open, exposed. He hated how much he liked that. Darkness had always been easier. Darkness hid mistakes. You live like you're invisible, he said without turning around. I try to be, Evelyn replied. Visibility is dangerous in my family. He nodded slowly. That made sense. Too much sense. Then why do you keep choosing daylight? He asked. Why walk alone? Why help people who don't matter? Evelyn's voice softened. Because if I don't, she said, then he wins twice. Caleb turned back to her. Who? My father. The word carried weight, not anger, not hatred, just fact. Caleb felt the room tilt just slightly. His instincts, honed by years of survival, whispered caution. This wasn't manipulation. This was someone who had learned how to live around a storm without ever thinking she could stop it. He stepped closer. If I let you go, he said, what happens? Evelyn met his gaze. He tightens his grip. He watches more closely. He assumes I talked, and if I keep you here, he escalates, she said. He always does. Caleb exhaled slowly. Either way, the path forward led through fire. He reached into his jacket and pulled out her phone, placing it on the counter. I haven't checked it, he said. Not yet. Evelyn's eyes flicked to it, then back to him. You will, yes, when I'm ready to be wrong. That was the closest thing to honesty he'd offered since this began. Evelyn nodded once. Then you should know, she said, if there's something on that phone, it isn't there because I put it there. Caleb's fingers hovered over the device. For the first time since coming home, he hesitated. And in that hesitation, the balance of power shifted just enough to matter. Caleb didn't check the phone right away. He set it face down on the counter and stepped away from it, as if distance alone could keep it from detonating whatever truth waited inside. Evelyn watched the choice without comment. She understood restraint. She lived on it. Bathroom's there, he said, pointing down the hall. Bedroom's the last door. Don't touch the windows. Am I allowed to leave? She asked. He met her eyes. Not yet. She nodded once. Acceptance, not surrender. Caleb moved through the apartment with practiced efficiency, checking locks, testing hinges, scanning corners where cameras might hide. He didn't explain himself. He didn't need to. Evelyn followed him with her gaze, cataloguing his habits the same way he catalogued threats. Outside, a delivery truck slowed, idled, then moved on. Caleb watched until it disappeared. You expect him to come for you, Evelyn said. I expect him to watch, Caleb replied. There's a difference. She considered that. My father doesn't rush. He creates pressure and waits for things to crack. Caleb glanced at her. Like your sister. The words slipped out before he could stop them. Evelyn's expression tightened just briefly. Yes, that was the first time he'd seen something close to pain break through her calm. He looked away, annoyed with himself. This wasn't an interrogation. This was containment. Still, the urge to protect pressed at him, unwelcome and persistent. You hungry? He asked. She hesitated. A little. He opened the fridge, sparse, intentional. He handed her a bottle of water and a wrapped sandwich from the top shelf. Eat, he said. We'll talk after. Evelyn took it, fingers brushing his. The contact was brief, accidental, but it lingered. She stepped back and sat at the table, unwrapping the sandwich carefully. Caleb stayed standing, back to the wall, eyes on the room. He listened to the city through the glass, filtering sound into meaning. Nothing out of place. Yet, "You're guarding me," Evelyn said after a moment. "I'm containing you. From who?" Caleb didn't answer. She took a bite, chewed slowly. "If you think I'm bait," she said, "you should know I've been bait my entire life." He finally looked at her. "Then you know how this ends." She met his gaze. Yes, someone bleeds, and it's never the person pulling the strings. The sunlight shifted across the floor, moving like a clock hand. Time passed. Not much. Enough to matter. Caleb's phone buzzed once. A message. He checked it quickly, then locked the screen. "They're circling," he said. Evelyn didn't ask who. She already knew. "Then you should move me," she said. "This place is too obvious." Caleb frowned. "You're not in charge." "I know," she replied, "but I'm right." He considered it. She was. That irritated him almost as much as it impressed him. "I won't hand you back," he said, "and I won't use you as leverage." "Then what will you do?" Evelyn asked. Caleb looked at the door, at the windows, at the city that refused to notice them. "I'll keep you breathing," he said, "until I know who's hunting who." Evelyn nodded, calm returning. "Then we wait." Caleb didn't correct her, because waiting, he knew, was already over. The sound came first, not loud, not sudden, just the faint scrape of rubber against concrete somewhere below the windows. Caleb stiffened instantly, every muscle locking into readiness. He raised a hand without turning, a silent signal. Evelyn stopped moving. They stood like that for several seconds, the city noise filtering in and out, until Caleb crossed the room and peered through a narrow gap in the curtain. A van had pulled into a loading zone across the street. No logo, engine running, too clean. "They found us," Evelyn said quietly. "Not yet," Caleb replied. "They think they did." He stepped back, mind already racing through exits, angles, timing. This place had been chosen for anonymity, not defense. That mistake was his. "Pack nothing," he said. "We're leaving." Evelyn didn't argue. She grabbed her bag anyway, habit overriding instruction. Caleb caught it and shook his head once. "Leave it." She did. They moved down the hallway just as footsteps echoed from the stairwell outside. Not rushing, controlled, confident. The kind of confidence that came from knowing someone else was supposed to panic first. Caleb guided Evelyn into the bedroom, pushing the door closed behind them. He pressed her gently but firmly against the wall, positioning himself between her and the sound. "Stay behind me," he said, "no matter what." Her eyes locked on his. "I don't need you to." "Yes," he cut in. "You do." The footsteps stopped. A knock followed, softer than the last one at Mara's house. Polite, almost respectful, Caleb smiled thinly. He moved to the door, opened it a fraction, just enough to see the man standing there. Mid-40s, plain clothes, calm eyes, the kind that didn't blink unless they chose to. "Mr. Moreau," the man said, "we need to talk." Caleb didn't answer. The man glanced past him, just briefly, then back. "You took something that doesn't belong to you." Caleb stepped closer, blocking the view entirely. "You're standing in the wrong place." The man's expression didn't change. "Victor Cross wants his daughter back." The words landed clean. No threat, no emotion, just fact. Caleb felt Evelyn shift behind him. He didn't turn. He didn't need to. Her presence was a weight now, an anchor. "She's not going anywhere," Caleb said. "Then this becomes inconvenient," the man replied. Caleb leaned in, voice low. "For you." Something flickered in the man's eyes. Recognition. He knew who he was dealing with now. He hadn't known before. Caleb closed the door gently and locked it. "Back," he said to Evelyn. They moved fast, too fast for hesitation. Caleb shoved open the bedroom window and scanned the fire escape. Clear, for the moment. "Go," he said. Evelyn stepped onto the metal grate without question. Caleb followed, pulling the window shut behind them, just as a heavy thud hit the door they'd left. They descended quickly, the metal clanging underfoot, sunlight flashing through gaps in the structure. At the bottom, Caleb grabbed her hand and pulled her into the alley, then into the flow of the street beyond. Only when they were moving, blending, disappearing did he release her. "You didn't have to do that," Evelyn said, breathless. "You could have traded me." Caleb didn't slow. "I don't trade people." She stared at him, something unreadable crossing her face. For the first time since he'd taken her, Evelyn wasn't being guarded. She was being protected. And Caleb knew, with a certainty that sat heavy in his chest, that whatever this had become, it was no longer part of the plan. They didn't stop until the noise of the street thinned into distance and the afternoon sun began to dip behind taller buildings. Caleb cut through a narrow side road and pulled the car into an abandoned lot where weeds pushed through cracked asphalt. He shut the engine off and listened. Nothing followed. Only then did he breathe. Evelyn leaned back against the seat, chest rising and falling, eyes closed for a brief second longer than necessary. When she opened them, the calm had returned, but something underneath it had shifted. "You didn't have to burn that contact," she said quietly. Caleb checked the mirrors again. They already knew where we were. They didn't know where we were going. "They would have," he replied. Silence settled between them. This one was different, heavier, the kind that followed a choice that couldn't be undone. Caleb reached into his jacket and pulled out Evelyn's phone. She stiffened. "I'm checking it now," he said. "I told you," she replied. "If there's something—" "I know," he cut in. "That doesn't mean I ignore it." He powered it on. The screen lit up instantly. No lock, no hesitation. That bothered him more than encryption ever could. He scrolled through messages. Nothing unusual at first. Calls from unknown numbers. Missed. Ignored. Then he saw it. A small icon, tucked into the system folder. Something that didn't belong. Caleb's jaw tightened. "What?" Evelyn asked. He didn't answer. He tapped once, then again. Code executed silently. A signal pulsed, brief and precise. A tracker. Caleb looked up slowly. Evelyn stared back at him, confusion crossing her face. Real confusion. "You think I put that there?" she said. "I think," Caleb replied carefully, "that it's been active for weeks." Her breath caught. "That's impossible. You don't check your phone. I don't let anyone touch it." Caleb turned the screen so she could see. Then someone did. The implication hung there, sharp and ugly. Evelyn shook her head. "No, he wouldn't risk that. He already did," Caleb said. "At my sister's house." Her expression hardened. "That wasn't him, wasn't it?" "No," she insisted. "Those men were sloppy. My father doesn't use sloppy." Caleb stared at her, weighing instinct against evidence. Evidence usually won. Instinct was what got people killed. "You ran," he said. "You told me not to escalate." "But this," he gestured to the phone, "this escalates everything." Evelyn swallowed. "You don't understand how he works." "Then explain," Caleb snapped. She hesitated. Just for a second. That was enough. Caleb leaned back, eyes cold now. "I should have known," he said. "You were calm because you knew you were never alone." "That's not true," Evelyn said quickly. "I swear to you." "Swear to who?" Caleb replied. "The man who grabbed you in daylight, or the one who just outran half of Victor Cross's people." Evelyn looked away, hurt flashing across her face before she could stop it. "If you think I betrayed you," she said softly, "then let me go." Caleb didn't answer. He powered the phone off and slid it into his pocket. Outside, a car passed on the road nearby. Caleb's fingers tightened around the steering wheel. Trust, he knew, was more dangerous than any weapon, and he wasn't sure anymore who was holding it. Caleb drove without speaking. The city thinned again, buildings giving way to empty stretches of road where sunlight baked the pavement and nothing looked back. He parked beside a small storage facility on the edge of an industrial block, unlocked a unit, and motioned for Evelyn to get out. She did. Inside, the space was bare, except for a chair and a single hanging bulb that hummed faintly. Caleb closed the metal door behind them. The sound echoed longer than it should have. "You're not leaving," he said. Evelyn looked around once, then back at him. "You think locking me up fixes this? I think it stops you from making things worse." Her eyes hardened. By breathing. Caleb didn't respond. He positioned the chair against the wall, then stepped back, keeping distance but not giving ground. "You said let you go," he said. "You didn't say where you'd go." Evelyn hesitated. That was confirmation enough. "Mara," Caleb said quietly. Evelyn's shoulders dropped, the fight leaving her all at once. "He'll go after her," she said. "Not because she matters. Because she matters to you." Caleb felt something snap tight inside his chest. "You don't get to decide that," he said. "I already did," Evelyn replied. "The moment I realized you weren't bluffing." Caleb turned away, dragging a hand through his hair. He had survived by controlling variables. Evelyn had just become the worst kind, the one he couldn't calculate. He locked the door from the outside. "I'll be back," he said. "Don't move." Evelyn didn't answer. He walked away, heart pounding harder with every step, and didn't look back. When he returned 20 minutes later, the unit was empty. The lock hung open, twisted just enough to show it had been forced from the inside. Caleb swore under his breath and ran. He didn't know how she'd done it. He didn't care. He tore back through the streets, dialing Mara again and again. No answer. He pushed the car harder, sunlight blurring into streaks. Evelyn was already moving. She cut through the city on foot, breath burning her lungs, mind racing. She didn't go to hide. She didn't go to safety. She went to warn. Mara opened the door just enough to see her before freezing in place. "You need to leave," Evelyn said, breathless. "Now." "What?" Mara began. "They're coming," Evelyn continued. "Not to scare you, to use you." Mara's eyes widened. Caleb said, "He's wrong," Evelyn said, "and if you stay here, he'll never forgive himself." A car slowed at the end of the street. Evelyn grabbed Mara's hand and pulled her back inside just as the engine cut. Outside, footsteps approached. Inside, Evelyn stood between Mara and the door, chest heaving, eyes fixed forward. She had chosen her side, and somewhere across the city, Caleb felt it. The moment when protection turned into panic. The moment when everything he thought he controlled slipped beyond his reach. The knock came again, firmer this time, as if politeness had run out. Evelyn didn't move. She stood between Mara and the door, shoulders squared, eyes locked on the wood as if she could see through it. Her breath slowed, forced into control. Fear had never been her enemy. Expectation was, "Open up," a man's voice said. "We know you're inside." Mara's fingers trembled around Evelyn's sleeve. "Caleb will be here," she whispered. Evelyn didn't answer. She already knew he wouldn't be in time. The door opened inward under a measured push. Two men stepped inside, efficient, expressionless, sunlight outlining their silhouettes. They didn't look at Mara, they looked at Evelyn. "Miss Cross," one of them said, "your father is waiting." Evelyn nodded once. "Let her go." The man didn't respond. He didn't need to. One of them reached out and took Evelyn by the arm, firm but not rough, professional. She allowed herself to be led away, glancing back only once. "Run," she mouthed. Mara didn't. By the time Caleb arrived, the house was empty. He knew before he stepped inside. The air had changed. Fear lingered, sharp and fresh, like ozone after a storm. He saw the overturned chair, the open door, the silence that followed violence without noise. He slammed his fist into the wall once, then steadied himself. Across the city, Evelyn sat in the back of a black car, hands folded in her lap, eyes on the passing streets. She didn't ask where they were going. She already knew. The car stopped in front of a building that wore respectability like armor. Glass, stone, height, power disguised as success. Victor Cross waited in a sunlit office overlooking the city he believed he owned. "Sit," he said, without looking up. Evelyn remained standing. Victor sighed and finally raised his eyes. They were cold, assessing. Not unkind, just empty. "You made things complicated," he said. "You always do," Evelyn replied. He smiled faintly. "I warned you not to draw attention." "You used a woman to bait a killer," she said. "That was attention." Victor leaned back in his chair. "I used leverage. You apparently used sentiment." He stood and walked toward her, stopping just short of touching distance. Do you know why you're alive? He asked. Because people think you matter to me. Evelyn met his gaze. I don't. That's the lie you tell yourself, Victor said, and the truth I let others believe. The words cut clean. You tracked me, Evelyn said. You put it on my phone. Victor nodded. You were getting sloppy. I needed to know where you were, and if he killed me. Victor shrugged. Then I would have learned something useful about him. Evelyn felt the weight of it then. Not shock, not betrayal, confirmation. You never wanted me safe, she said quietly. Victor smiled, satisfied. I wanted you effective. Silence stretched between them, thick and final. Outside, the city moved on, unaware that a daughter had just learned exactly what she was worth. And somewhere else, in that same daylight, Caleb was already moving. Violence focused now into something far more dangerous than rage. Victor didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The office was designed to absorb sound, to make every word feel intentional. You brought him back, he said. I didn't. Evelyn stood still, hands clenched at her sides. You followed him to his sister. I followed opportunity, Victor replied. Men like Caleb Moreau don't disappear. They wait, and when they come home, they bleed. Evelyn shook her head. He's not your enemy. Victor smiled thinly. Everyone is my enemy until they're useful. He walked past her to the window, looking down at the city. You, for example. You brought him to me faster than I expected. You put a tracker on me, and you led it straight to the woman he loves most. Evelyn swallowed. You're going to kill her, Victor turned. No, I'm going to let him think I will. The difference mattered to him. It didn't to her. He won't negotiate, Evelyn said. He doesn't trade. I know, Victor replied. That's why I won't ask. He nodded once. The men at the door shifted. Evelyn felt the room close in. We're moving you, Victor said. Somewhere he can find you. I won't help you, she said. You already have, Victor replied. By surviving, they escorted her out into the daylight, into another car, this one heading toward the edge of the city, where warehouses gave way to water and rust. Evelyn watched the route, memorizing turns, counting time, not to escape, to leave breadcrumbs. Across town, Caleb felt the world narrow. Dante's call came through as Caleb pulled into an empty underpass. They have her, Dante said. Cross wants you to know where. Dockside, old freight building, daylight. Caleb closed his eyes for half a second. Dockside meant exposure. Cameras, witnesses. Cross wanted spectacle. He's using her to draw me out, Caleb said. Yes, and Mara already moved, Dante replied. Safe for now. That eased nothing. Caleb hung up and sat there, engine idling, sunlight cutting through the concrete above him. He saw it clearly now. The path Victor wanted him to take. The trap designed not to kill him outright, but to strip him of choice. Caleb smiled grimly. He started the car. At the dockside building, Evelyn was led inside and left in a wide open space with high windows that flooded the floor with light. No chains, no guards in sight, just distance and visibility. Victor's voice came through a speaker overhead. He'll come, he said. You always were convincing. Evelyn lifted her chin. You're afraid of him. Victor laughed softly. I'm curious. She looked at the door, at the sunlight, at the place where she knew Caleb would enter. Somewhere between fear and hope she made her choice. And miles away, Caleb drove straight toward the trap, not to save face or settle scores, but because there was no version of this story where he walked away. Not anymore. Caleb didn't arrive alone. The dockside air carried salt and rust, and the low hum of machinery that hadn't moved in years. Sunlight poured through broken panes, laying bright rectangles across the concrete floor like targets no one had bothered to paint. Caleb stepped out of the car and let the noise of the city fade behind him. His phone buzzed once, then again. He ignored it. Men emerged from the shadows in ones and twos, not in formation, not announcing themselves. Old allies, debts paid in silence, faces that didn't ask questions because they already knew the answers. They took positions without being told, spreading out along sightlines and cover, eyes scanning, hands steady. Caleb raised a hand. They stopped. "Daylight," one of them muttered. "That's his mistake," Caleb replied. He moved forward alone. Inside, the space opened wide, deliberately so. High ceilings, clear angles, a stage built for watching. Evelyn stood near the center. Unbound, shoulders squared, face lifted toward the light. She saw him the moment he crossed the threshold. Relief flickered. Then warning. Caleb didn't slow. A voice rolled through the building from unseen speakers, smooth and amused. "You came exactly where I wanted." Caleb stopped 10 paces from Evelyn. He didn't look up. He didn't look around. His attention stayed fixed. "You shouldn't have used her," he said. Victor's laughter echoed. "I didn't use her. I used you." Men poured in from side doors and catwalks, weapons raised, confident in numbers and position. Caleb's allies answered in kind, steel appearing from nowhere, the air tightening as if the building itself held its breath. Evelyn took a step toward Caleb. He shook his head once. "Stay," he said. The first shot cracked the air. The dock erupted. Caleb moved before the sound finished echoing, crossing distance with brutal efficiency. He pulled Evelyn down behind a concrete barrier as bullets chewed into the space where they'd stood seconds earlier. He shielded her with his body without thinking, every movement precise, economical. "Get ready to run," he said. She nodded, eyes locked on him, trusting him now in a way that felt heavier than fear. Caleb rose, fired twice, then vanished behind cover as return fire sparked and screamed. His allies advanced in staggered bursts, pushing angles, cutting off sightlines. It wasn't chaos. It was controlled collapse. Victor's voice cut in again, sharper now. "You're outnumbered." Caleb smiled without humor and stepped into the open. "No," he said. "You're exposed." He fired upward. Glass shattered. Sunlight exploded inward, blinding men who'd counted on height and shadow. One fell, then another. The echo of gunfire layered over shouts and the scrape of boots. Caleb reached the stairs and took them 2 at a time. At the top, Victor waited with a guard who looked unsure for the first time. "You could have walked away," Victor said. Caleb didn't slow. "So could you." The guard raised his weapon. Caleb fired first. Victor stumbled back, shock flashing across his face as he realized the space he'd designed for control had become a cage. Caleb closed the distance and grabbed him, slamming him against the railing. Below, the fight was ending, the sound thinning into silence. "You wanted daylight," Caleb said quietly, "so everyone could see." He pulled the trigger. Victor fell. Caleb turned back toward the floor below, heart hammering, scanning for Evelyn. He spotted her emerging from cover, untouched, eyes wide but steady. They met in the center of the ruined space, sunlight and debris settling around them. For the first time since he'd come home, the noise inside Caleb's head went quiet, and in that quiet he understood the cost. The sirens came late. By the time they did, the dockside had already emptied itself of intention. The bodies were gone. The weapons vanished. The men who had come with Caleb were already dissolving back into the city, returning to lives that pretended they hadn't just intersected with something final. Caleb stood at the edge of the building, staring out at the water. The sunlight was softer now, stretched thin across the surface like a held breath finally released. Evelyn approached quietly. "You didn't hesitate," she said. "He didn't turn. I knew what he was the moment he put his hands on my sister. And before that..." Caleb closed his eyes. Before that, he thought. Before that was the mistake of believing distance could replace responsibility. "They'll say he fell," Evelyn continued. "They always do." Caleb nodded. "Let them." Behind them, footsteps approached. Mara emerged from the shadows, eyes red but steady, carrying the weight of everything she had seen and survived. Caleb turned then, crossing the space between them in 3 long strides and pulling her into his arms. "I'm sorry," he said into her hair. She held him tightly. "You came back." That was all she said. It was enough. They didn't stay long. There was nothing left for them there. By late afternoon they were tucked away in a quiet place beyond the city, where the noise thinned into wind and the world felt smaller and honest again. Evelyn sat on the steps outside, watching the light fade. She had a choice now. She'd never had one before. "You don't owe us anything," Caleb said, joining her. She smiled faintly. "I know. You can leave," he added. "Disappear. Start over." "And you?" she asked. "Will you?" Caleb looked toward the horizon. "I don't disappear anymore." Evelyn considered that. "Then neither will I." He studied her face, searching for fear, for doubt. He found neither. That night, as the world finally slowed, Caleb told them the truth. About the man he had killed years ago, about why he had run, about how saving Mara had cost him the last excuse he had to pretend he was anything other than what he was. Evelyn listened without judgment. Mara listened with understanding, earned the hard way. "You're not broken," Evelyn said when he finished. "You're just done lying to yourself." Caleb exhaled, a sound that felt like something leaving him for good. Morning came quietly. Evelyn stood at the door with a small bag, sunlight framing her like a question. She could still walk away. She knew it. So did Caleb. She didn't. Instead, she stepped forward and placed the bag down. "I don't want protection," she said. "I want honesty." Caleb nodded. "That's all I have left." She smiled. Not because it was enough, because it was real. Somewhere far away, a city rewrote its stories. A man fell, a case closed, a line erased. But here, in the daylight, something else began. Not redemption, responsibility. And if this story made you pause, if it made you wonder what you would do when the past comes home unannounced, then you already know why these stories matter. Subscribe to Heart Tales for stories about choices that don't fit neatly into right or wrong. And tell us in the comments below if you were standing where Caleb stood. Would you have walked away or stayed to face what you'd become? Your next story is waiting on the end screen.